Hello everyone and welcome to Techweek TV, brought to you by Callaghan Innovation. Welcome to this afternoon's session. In this session we're going to be talking about helping SMEs grow in New Zealand with some amazing leaders, a topic I'm personally super excited about given that 97% of New Zealand is SME. And introducing our awesome panel, we have Nicole Buson, who's a Small Business Director at Xero, Michael Contaldo, who's a Senior Policy Advisor at the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, and we have Michelle Polglas, Program Director at the Kiwi FinTech Accelerator. Hello, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, okay, so SMEs, making them grow. I guess, do you want to provide the context of your organisations and how you are involved with the small business community in New Zealand?
Absolutely. Shall I kick off? Perfect. So I'm Nicole Buson. I'm Small Business Director at Xero. So we obviously have a lot of small business customers. And to your point, Sian, they make up 97% of our economy. That's super important. We're a software provider. We provide primarily cloud accounting software, but also have a number of other products and an app ecosystem of over 700 partners to provide a full suite of software to small businesses.
So I'm working sort of government side. So the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment has the lead engagement on small businesses, obviously being incredibly important for our economy, economic growth, for issues around kind of productivity, employment, etc. So we have teams of people who are looking specifically at kind of how we help to create the right environment in which SMEs can start up, can kind of grow, how they access finance, how they build capability, etc. My particular area of specialism is looking at startups as kind of one segment, I suppose. So not all startups are SMEs, not SMEs are startups, but looking at how we kind of create a dynamic, vibrant ecosystem within New Zealand to drive innovation, raise levels of R&D, improve our goods and services, really.
Michelle.
And hi, I'm the Program Director for the upcoming Kiwi FinTech Accelerator, and it's a really exciting opportunity on two levels. So on the one hand, we have these extraordinary companies that come through disrupting the financial services sector. So that is the companies coming through at the more startup level, and then we do have the more mature stage companies that are taking their business or venture to the next level.
Awesome. What are some of the challenges that the SMEs in this industry are facing at the moment?
So I think for small businesses, cash flow is king. So you need to be able to manage that really well. And there's a couple of pain points that we hear a lot from small business. The first of those is around getting paid. So if a small business doesn't get paid, unlike a big business, they may not be able to make payroll. So it's quite a serious, type of thing. So we have a whole lot of insight that shows that on average, small businesses are paid 10 days late, which is not great for them. So anything that small businesses can do to get paid more quickly is really, really important. A second one is access to capital. So to your point.
And actually to pick up on that point, the government can play a role there, and actually when it comes to kind of prompt payment to small businesses that might kind of contract with procurement or whatever, actually we can set a lead in sort of doing that at all levels, national and local. I think is incredibly important. So the access to finance question I think is an important one. We've just introduced, the government has just introduced the R&D tax incentive, which is kind of hopefully a big benefit to all businesses, but small businesses part of that, where for every dollar you put into R&D you get 15 cents back. So hopefully that will kind of incentivise some of that investment in those sort of technologies in particular that will kind of help some of those more innovative businesses grow. There's also issues around capability as well, about how we kind of support our small businesses to kind of build teams, build kind of management capabilities, etc., and to kind of think about exports.
I'll come back to that in a minute.
So the Accelerator is, it's been the third year that it's run, the Kiwi FinTech Accelerator, and we've had some really interesting FinTech companies come out of this program. So we've got, for example, some of the alumni who have directly supported small businesses are Henry, so they're supporting the gig economy, making the whole admin around being self-employed or a contractor really easy. We've got Takoha, which is basically a crowdfunding platform for Māori entrepreneurship, which is just a fantastic opportunity to support community in whānau. And then we've also got Choice, which is actually launching this week, and it's a payments with purpose QR code payment system. And it just means that those small business retailers that have been wearing that 2% credit card transaction fee, now as a consumer you have the option of donating half of that to charity. So, we've got our actual alumni helping the small businesses on the one hand, and then we're supporting the creation of these extraordinary companies on the other.
Awesome. Going back to capability, I know that Xero has a big push right now in helping their SMEs to grow. So how are you helping build capability in these companies?
Yeah, so there's a whole lot of ways that we're doing that. So for the first time this year, for example, we ran roadshows right around the country where we invited small businesses to come in and to have a chat with us, about how to use Xero specifically, but also about our ecosystem partners. So there was a whole lot of education there around, how you might grow and use different ecosystem apps.
Awesome. Okay, so a few more questions here. Why is the financial industry so important for SMEs? You can jump in whenever you want.
I think it's a really exciting time. As I mentioned, it's the third year we've run the accelerator, and we've just seen a massive spike of applications this year. So I think the disruptive technologies are actually revolutionising the financial services sector, and there are just extraordinary opportunities to make a difference and change the way things have always been done.
Absolutely, and I think changing the way that things have been done is really important, and we see, particularly in the UK now, that there's a whole lot happening there, sort of with the rise of open banking out there, that's driven a whole lot of new innovation. But at the heart of it, small businesses, they need to get paid on time, and they need to be able to access capital when they need to. And a lot of this is being digitized in new ways. Just to give an example on the access to capital side, which is a focus for us. So it's quite hard for small businesses at times to lend from banks. It's very time consuming, it's very paper based. And we're seeing the rise, particularly in the UK at the moment, of a lot of alternative lenders that are simply making lending applications digital. So our small businesses can get online and get access to capital within 24 hours. We're starting to see this in New Zealand now, so that's something we expect to see increasing, and also partnerships with banks to get this going.
For those watching at home that don't know what open banking is, can you describe it?
Yeah, so essentially it's simply the ability for a customer to share their data, their bank transaction data, with a third party to access new services. So, if you're banking with a bank, you may be able to share it with a third party lender to access capital, or with another bank, indeed.
And I think fintech is important from SME perspective in two ways. Partly, SMEs as customers, so actually there is opportunity there to kind of get more responsive sort of access to finance from the bigger institutions to help them grow their businesses, but also as providers of these services and products themselves, and developing these, engaging these new technologies to develop those new things. I mean, the fintech sector has globally grown from in the space of a decade from something like 800, 900 million in 2008 to now sort of 50 billion globally, US dollars globally. This is a massive growth sector. In New Zealand, I think you may have the figures, but the fintech sector is the fastest growing tech subsector actually. So there's kind of real opportunities here to think around things like the opportunity from open banking, how you engage with things like blockchain or AI, cloud, all of these sorts of new technologies, and how you kind of more responsive to customer needs. Really, I think the time has never been better.
Yeah, and also globally, up to 80% of financial institutions have actually entered into fintech partnerships. So there is that real appetite for change from the institutions themselves, and solving a lot of pain points that customers are experiencing at the same time.
Something that to lead on from the open banking thing, what you were saying before, is like the rise of neobanks that focus specifically on a niche of businesses that might have specific capital needs or have a way of doing things. So like the construction industry, that's like quite intensive, and so they need a different type of capital, and they like all up front. And so having a bank that actually understands that, rather than one that kind of just tries to be everyone for everyone. Anyways,
everything for everyone.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of quite interesting. So I guess let's talk a little bit about the digital fintech products available to Kiwi businesses today.
Going to lead off, Nicole.
Yeah, sure. So I guess we are a fintech, so we have our own products at Xero. I think there's a whole lot out there. To go back to your construction example. So. If you're a construction business, you may need to, send an invoice, which you can do through Xero, but you may also need project management software or other things to help you. So, there's a whole ecosystem of app partners out there. You may need to access finance, and so an example of one of the old lenders that we work with or that integrates with Xero is SpotCap. So, if you need to access finance, you can do it digitally through them. So there's a whole wealth of things out there, but I think often small businesses are not aware of what is available, and so back to sort of that awareness point, creating awareness of the options is really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for us to see the types of applications coming in for the FinTech Accelerator this year, and we are seeing a lot of property tech solutions, insurtech, and it actually all comes back to the customer experience in the end. So that's across the board, and whether it's for SMEs or enterprise level, that customer experience is at the heart of it, of the driving that change, that revolution.
Do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, these are all important points. I suppose the other thing is to kind of think about the trends in society about customers, needing more responsive solutions to their day-to-day, business transactions, and how the sector can kind of respond to that. I think as an opportunity, but then also to think about those issues as well around kind of cybersecurity, resilience, data protection. These also need to go hand in hand. I think in terms of here's a real opportunity, but to ensure this kind of sector continues to grow, there are some things that the business need to kind of bear in mind.
Okay, so for Kiwi businesses looking to grow, what advice do you have regarding financing? And then you can also take it to, just general kind of growth advice as well. Do you want to kick off?
I think there's, some really interesting ways to raise equity, and that's, something that some of the companies that are also applying are looking at. For example, the Takoha, crowd platform, crowd investing solution. So, there's some really creative ways too of just making things happen in that way.
I think there's a whole lot of options available both on the equity and the debt side, but often there's again that lack of awareness, so just getting up to speed with the options that are available. We recently published a guide to financing, for example, which you could do that through, or just talking to your accountant is a great way to do that as well, because they should be aware of all of the options.
Exactly.
On quite a basic level, with my other hat on, I'm BNZ ambassador for the bank, and so one thing that I kind of pointed out to them, and I've been through this as being a small business owner myself, where I said, well, I kind of want a checklist of what I need to bring to you. So, the banking processes can be arduous, they can be really hard, and I think one thing we can do to simplify as an industry is actually just go, how about you come to us with 90% of the stuff, and actually us saying, what that is. So then when you actually come to doing the process has been much more simple because you both knew what you needed at the time and everyone comes armed with that. I think there's some simple things that we can do to really help and expedite the process for people who are time poor and really just need to be focusing on their business, not these kind of more back-end processes that should be a little bit more seamless than what they are today, I think.
That's such a great point. Being finance ready is, we talk a lot about that.
Absolutely, and I was having a conversation with Andy Higgs from Centrality this morning actually around the whole know your customer KYC and AML, the anti-money laundering side of things, which is why you have to come along with a big thick pile of yes I am who I say I am.
Yep.
So making that, it should be more simple than it is, and there's also we're looking at ways, or some of the FinTech ventures are looking at ways of solving that problem as well.
I think there's so many ways of just funding organisations, which is actually good that we now have so many options. It's quite a...
I mean, look at the growth of crowdfunding, for example. That wasn't, 10 years that didn't exist, and now actually many small businesses will get off the ground by having that word of mouth.
Crowd power, and also equity funding as well with that.
And I think it's fair to say, to your point about banks, I think all the banks in New Zealand are making a big effort right now, and we expect to see what's happened in the UK, sort of with them getting on the digital lending bandwagon pretty soon as well, which will be exciting.
This might be a strange question, but do you think that SMEs should make a better use of their voice, being that they are a large collective of New Zealand? Should they be slightly more demanding or of better processes, or asking the people who are serving them to be more customer centric with their needs that they have? Bit of a curveball, but
I think the problem is there's a lot of fragmentation, right? So we, our purpose as a business is to, make the lives of small businesses better. So we're actively out there speaking on behalf of, small businesses. But you can imagine potentially at the government level, should there be a voice for small business?
Right. And I think all consumers should be more demanding, actually, because that's what, in a sense, that's what drives innovation. It's not just about the supply. Somebody comes up, well, here's a product. In a sense, if people voice what their concerns are and what, how they want to see this better world, then actually someone will then come up with a solution to respond to that. So there's, it's a supply and demand thing, actually, I think. Yeah,
and then there's also the other aspect of that too, is the price performance. So, disruptive technologies are able to facilitate these changes in a way that was never possible before. And that's a really exciting time for FinTech.
Do you have any payments applications coming through that you're like deeply fascinated by? We had an experience yesterday. We were like, that needs to be updated. So yeah, do you have any?
I'm really excited about Choice. So they're actually launching on Friday, and it's Payments with Purpose. It's a QR code. You nominate a charity, so you just need to be organised in advance, and it's with nominated retailers, and you go in and you purchase, and then half of that transaction fee will go straight to that charity. So there is a lot more conversation around purpose and around these financial applications that do make a difference, and it's not just all about we're going to take your money. It's going to be what can we do with that money? How can we make a difference to the world? It's quite exciting.
Awesome. So I guess moving to the future now, I just want to know some of your visions for the future, and how do you hope your product has impacted the financial industry in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yes. So future. So I think access to financial services should be simply really seamless. So small businesses should get paid on time. They should be able to access capital digitally and really easily. And I think we are playing a little bit of catch up in New Zealand. We don't have any neobanks. We don't have a lot of the stuff that is emerging in Australia and the rest of the world. So I think things like the Kiwi FinTech Accelerator, which we're extremely supportive of, is going to inspire that innovation. So it's super important for us to be doing things like this.
Yeah, I mean, coming back to the accelerator again, anything is possible. There's a whole new future out there, and that I guess that it is happening, that decentralisation of banking and financial institutions. So New Zealand does need to catch up and then move forward. We had that, we did well with FPOS back in the day, but we can't sort of rest on those laurels. We need to keep making that progress.
Yeah, I mean, recognise there's trends in the rest of the world towards a cashless society. Actually, you look at Africa, for example. Actually, the people doing their banking on mobile phones, for years actually, because your remote communities, that has had a tremendous impact on economic growth and prosperity there. So really understanding how these trends are flowing through, and then sort of making sure, as you say, New Zealand is kind of well positioned at the forefront of those new deployment of those new technologies, really.
And mobile is absolutely driving that as well.
When I was in China a couple years ago, I had a homeless person come up to me and ask me for money with his WeChat QR code, and I was like, that's innovative, wow. And the taxi driver laughed at me because I had cash in China. And it was completely foreign for me, because we still use cash in New Zealand, and obviously in America, cash it's a check and cash society as well as credit cards.
I think Sweden and Denmark, for example, have set targets, haven't they? Said, by 10, 15 years or whatever, there will be no cash in those societies. So how do you operate those in that way? How do you respond to that?
And Shan, you raise a really interesting point about Asia, because by far they're at the forefront, right, of payments and being a cashless society. So it'll be interesting to see how that permeates through the rest of the world outside of Chinese-speaking populations.
I have another curveball, and I might get in trouble for it. But where did New Zealand go wrong with this? Because we were leading, I think, in the 90s with banking and with payments and stuff. Did we fall behind, or do we know what happened? Do we want to make some assumptions?
Well, that is a bit of a curveball. I think New Zealand's always been a bit of a testing ground for innovation, and that's why we embraced FPOS so early and so readily. We don't, I guess the banking sector in particular has been very strongly regulated, and that's been, that's kind of slowed things down. But there's certainly, as Nicole has said already, there's a real appetite for change and understanding that New Zealand does need to keep up. And that's why it's the Kiwi FinTech Accelerator, and we do have the banks on board, and Xero and and Centrality and Visa. So we've got it is a real partnership model.
I mean, I'd throw two out there. So firstly, I think there's a saying, it takes a village to raise a child, and I think we need to collaborate. So we're too small to be doing fragmented initiatives. So that's the first one. And then secondly, I think just being, we've got such creative people, but being bold, no tall poppy, just get out there and do it.
I think the creativity of the New Zealand economy, I think, is really important. Actually, that is a real asset, I think, and actually understanding how we can kind of collaborate, learn from the past, maybe, build, invest in our capability, our kind of skills, and I think that sets us in a good place for the future.
And just in wrapping up, I would like just your final comments on from each of you around how we can help New Zealand fintechs, how you're helping Sorry, I'm going to start that question again. Helping SMEs grow in New Zealand. Final few thoughts.
So we're really excited about what's going on in the collaborative aspect together with the Kiwi FinTech Accelerator, together with banks, and what we can all do together to make it better for small businesses, I would say, as a final point.
I would say from a government perspective, we have a number of kind of strategies out now thinking about how we kind of grow the SME sector, how we kind of support people running those businesses, building capability, accessing capital. I spoke about the R&D tax incentive. I would encourage everybody to go and look at the Inland Revenue's website to find out more about that. There's a range of support available, I think, to businesses.
Back to the accelerator, on the one hand, some of our alumni are directly supporting small business. We're building that capability within the accelerator. So we're having some who have actually exited a first company and they're coming back in with company number 2. So we are developing those capabilities. And then also just that whole, supporting actual, small, creative, innovative fintechs to move their ventures to the next level as well. That's also what we're doing, and it's a really exciting time, I think, for fintech in New Zealand.
Awesome. That's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for tuning in to Techweek TV. See you later.
Thanks.
Thank you.